Yo, what is up guys, Grim here, and in today's video I thought I'd give you guys a rundown of how I earned my currency this league to acquire the Headhunter item, and I'd give you guys a few of the strategies that I utilized to make the currency on my Necromancer character. So without further ado, let's get into it. So, of course, what you can do to make currency is going to vary a little bit based on your build. The build that I'm playing right now is particularly strong at bossing with okay mapping, but it doesn't have enough area of effect to be able to do stuff like Legion, and it doesn't have enough single target to kill all of the defensive mobs in Blight, so those two mechanics were knocked out for me, and I couldn't use those. So what did I do to get my currency? So if you go back in my VODs, you can check out all this stuff live on Twitch TV, but you can see that I got my first around 5 cards, which I think is around 25 to 30 exalts, of the Headhunter, grinding Elder Guardian maps, as well as their invitations. So essentially, this strategy revolves around getting to Awaken a 5, around about that point, and accessing T16 maps, so that you can kind of get enough Atlas bonus to kind of make sure that you're dropping enough maps to make it where it's worth it. But the strategy mainly focuses around picking up 2 Uncharted Realm passives, by defeating both, the Formed and the Twisted invitations. You can gain these fairly easily because you'll be farming them anyway, and allocating those passives into Remnants of the Past and Guardian's Aid. Once you have Remnants in the Past and Guardian's Aid, you're going to get a significant boost in Guardian farming as well as invitation farming. So invitation farming at its core is not a new concept, but it was reasonably profitable back then, and it is still reasonably profitable right now, all due to the fact that you have a 50% chance to gain an additional fragment whenever you run a Guardian map. So if a Guardian map is 10C and the fragment is, if a Guardian map is like 20C and the fragment is like 10C, well, you'll get 50% chance to get an additional fragment, which would mean you get 15C back just from running the map and defeating the boss. And that's not including any of the maps that you drop in there, any of the bases, or anything else that you run in that map at all. So basically, you get a map for 5C, and in addition to that, you also get a ton of opportunity at a number of different items that you can sell on to other players. And we'll go over a few of those in a second here. But yeah, Guardian's Aid is always a surefire bet, and is always going to get you a decent amount of money back, as you just basically get to run the maps for free. And then on top of that, you get to do the invitations, which also award a ton of currency and items that you can sell to other players. So we're going to jump into PoE Profit, a website which is focused on understanding how much you can make off certain mechanics and certain bosses. So the one here we're going to talk about here is, of course, Guardians. So you can see right now, if you do Guardian of the Chimera, it costs 18C for the map, and the fragment is 11C. But you also do have a chance at dropping all of the different invitations, specifically the Formed for Shaper Guardians, and that is going to make a little bit of your money back as well. So on average, you should make around 18C back. 19C back from Chimera. You make about on average 17C from Minotaur, etc. You can see the numbers here. But as soon as you go over to using Guardian's Aid, which is the talent, you can see now that you're making guaranteed profit most of the time, because you're going to be getting everything you did before, and you get a 50% chance at an additional fragment. And this is excluding all of the different bases that you get from the map, all of the maps that you get from that map, all the lead mechanics in that map, and everything in between. So it is very, very profitable if you're looking for a boss killing strategy. And then on top of that, you can also see how much you get from the Formed. So the Formed right now, you profit around 40C right now. Now, there is a little bit of an interesting thing going on with invitations right now. So right now, you can only get a maximum of 3 Crescent Splinters, which are the splinters for the Maven fight. You need 10 of them to form a Maven's Writ. We're not sure if the drop rate of these have been nerfed, because it previously used to be able to get up to 5, or if it's a bug. Yeah, right now you can only get 3 of them, which does mean that this is a little bit higher than it should be. However, this number here does not include any of the Watchstones that drop in there as well. And the Watchstone sells from anywhere between 20C all the way up to 2 exalts, depending on which Watchstone you get. So you should be making around 40-ish C just from running the Formed, which is a pretty damn good amount of currency, if you ask me. So overall, if you actually do a full run, you should be looking at around about 50C profit per set. And if you can do like 2 or 3 sets per hour, that's 2 or 3 exalts per hour. So that's pretty good, and that's how I farmed the first half of my Headhunter. But after that, a lot of people were starting to copy me on the stream and catch on, and a lot of the prices started to become a little bit warped, and the profits were getting pretty thin. Now, they've reset back since because I started to do other things, so it's probably pretty profitable to do Guardian farming right now if you're a boss killing build. But after that, I decided to move on to boss killing of other bosses, specifically Uber Elder and Shaper. So off stream, I slayed a number of Uber Elders. It was particularly difficult to do on stream because it's a fairly mechanical fight. But yeah, I did a bunch of Uber Elders off stream. And right now, if you're doing Uber Elder, you can expect to potentially make a reasonable profit. Uber Elder is a boss that awards a ton more currency early, as that really is when he's like all of his drops are worth the most. You can see a number of his drops are still worth quite a bit. But if you sell the Watcher's Eye unidentified, it sells for 3.4 exalts, which right now is 3.4 times 75. Right now is 255C. So if you put that in there right now, you make around 44C per Uber Elder without the talent. And if you put the talent in, with the talent being a 10% boost to the chance of dropping a Watcher's Eye when you do the Elder, well, that goes even higher. So if you go to talented bosses and you put that same number in, 255, it's even better overall for your time. So you make almost 70 chaos per Uber Elder. So if you can farm Uber Elder and you sell the Watcher's Eyes unidentified and you have enough money to sustain any bad luck streaks, then Uber Elder is also a really, really good way to make a lot of currency. And I believe I made probably 2 or 3 of my cards out of the 11 doing Uber Elder as well. So that takes us up to 8 cards around, 7 or 8 cards, and I did make a lot of money from that. Moving forward on my second day of Headhunter grinding, so the first day was Elder, and then, there was Elder Guardians, and then I did Uber Elder. On the second day, I decided to finish off the Headhunter by farming Shaper, and the allure of Shaper is the fact that he drops Shaper bases. So Shaper bases are actually pretty important right now. They sell for a considerable amount if you get the right bases. So for example, shaped spike point quivers sell for 20 chaos. Some of the actual just normal bases like the shields, which sell to the spectral shield throw people, sell for about 10 chaos. A bunch of those drop. So basically the profit of Shaper comes from the bases that he drops. You need to make sure that you pick them up and you sell those on to other players. So we're talking rings, amulets, the quivers, sometimes helmets, sometimes chest pieces. They do actually serve quite a good purpose and about quite a lot of money. Basically, my strategy for this was to pick all of the bases up. You can see I have them all in here. And the bases which I thought might sell for a little bit more, I identified them. But overall, you want to be using Awakened PoE Trade. That's definitely going to be the best strategy. And you want to be making sure you check out the right boxes here. So you can see this ring is worth about 6 to 9 chaos. Probably about 9 chaos is where I'd press it. And those just drop tons off of Shaper. However, they only drop if you have the Gaze into the Abyss Atlas passive allocated. So Atlas passives really are going to be what gets you over the line. So unlocking a number of these is going to be the best course of action. And you definitely want to be looking at doing that moving forward. So yeah, pretty cool in my opinion. Now, let's say you don't have the Atlas passive. Well, Shaper is actually reasonably profitable to farm anyway. He's actually pretty much immune to losses. It's going to be a fairly easy boss to make your money back on. You can never really like blow out and lose everything on Shaper like you can on Uber Elder or on Maven, due to the fact that he drops a Uber Elder fragment, which is dropped 100% of the time. You can either get the fragment of Shape, which is worth 28C, or the fragment of Knowledge, which is worth 43C. And you can see here that the entry cost is 37C. And if you get a few bases, and if you sell the item that drops off him, the unique, well, you pretty much just made your money back. And then when you make the real profit is when you get a Dying Sun or one of the other rare jobs like Starforge or Solstice Vigil. So Shape is not bad. Overall, I'd expect you to make probably, if you can do 4 or 5 Shapers an hour, I'd say you could probably make 30 or 40C profit off him. Let's just say that you get 35 and you do 5 an hour. That's 175 divided by 75. That's 2.3x X an hour, which isn't bad. You can kind of like get a bit of money doing that as well. So Shaper's not too bad at all to farm, as long as you can get the sets cheap, and you can also sell those bases. That's where you're going to get a lot of the profit from Shaper and a lot of the protection from losing money as well. So yeah, not too bad. But Shaper, overall, isn't the most riveting boss to farm. He is a little bit repetitive. And overall, I definitely moved off of Shaper reasonably quickly. I think I probably did about 7 or 8 sets. And then I moved on to just finishing off my Atlas, as well as dabbling in a few other Atlas strategies to finish off my last pieces of Headhunter here. So the main one that I wanted to look at here was actually Alva. So Alva, right now, I had stacked up, I think about 20 red Alva missions. And I wanted to cash them in and try and make some money off of Alva, because I didn't get much of an opportunity to play with her last league. And now after playing with her this league, she is actually completely insane. The actual temples themselves yield a ton of maps, and they also yield a ton of currency, as well as big opportunities, which we'll get into in a second here. But the first one I want to talk about here is maps. So right now, whoops, I accidentally clicked on this. Right now, maps sell for anywhere between 7 to 8C. If you actually put your map tab public, this is basically what I did. I'll show you guys exactly what I did. I basically came in here, I opened up my map tab, I set it to public, and then I public them all, and then I just set them all to 7C. And then they just sell all day long. Now, this is only possible if you have a reasonably high Atlas bonus, as well as a reasonably high Atlas level. If you can get to Awakener 8 by purchasing Ivory Watchstones, or Craftable Watchstones, you're going to get a ton more T14 plus maps, and it's really going to fuel your economic play here, because selling maps really is completely insane. Overall, if you can get 1 or 2 extra maps per like per temple, or I think sometimes I got 3 or 4, and if you get the Atlas of Worlds in the temple, you can get even more than that. Sometimes you can be looking at making 35 or 40C just off of 1 Alva temple. And that's just off maps alone. And in most cases, if you're just alking your maps and you've got a fully Awakener 8 Atlas with a decent amount of bonus, you're going to over-sustain your maps anyway. So you're basically getting to run these maps for free because you're sustaining, and then you're getting tons more maps back, and you can sell them on to other players, and you're going to make an incredible, consistent amount of money off of selling maps right now. It's very, very strong indeed. And that was a big portion of me overall getting my Atlas done. So at the end of the day, if I had to, I'll just actually finish off talking about temples here. So there is also a few other things that you want to watch out for. So right now, there's definitely quite a lot of things that you can do to make money in the temple, but overall, you have a few options. So the first option is that you can sell your itemized temples on trade. So if you, for example, get a T3 trap room, you can sell it to other players for, I think, around an Exalt or an Exalt and a bit. If you get a double corruption chamber, I think that sells for like 25C. And if you get a sacrificial chamber, I think that sells for like 20C, but I wouldn't recommend selling any of them. Maybe you could sell the trap one, but overall I think you should just run it because you have a chance to get a very expensive pair of gloves, which are used by trappers right now. So you can get the Architect's Hand from a T3 trap room, and that will give you, it's like with 170C, so that's like 3 and a bit exalts. Which is really, really good. In addition to that, you should be slaying the Vial Omnitect because it drops a ton of really, really expensive vials, and you have a reasonable chance at actually getting one of these. And you can see here, this specific one, which upgrades the Architect's Hands to the Slave Driver's Hands, is worth 400 Chaos, which is around 5 or 6 Exalts, I think, which is an incredibly high amount, and doing Alva is super duper good. And this is on top of the map sustain, on top of, getting the museum, which has like pretty good loot in it as well, on top of getting, the currency room. There's just a ton of really good stuff in Alva. And in hindsight, if I actually could do my time again, this league, I would have probably completely skipped doing Elder Guardians and stuff like that, and I'd also skip doing Shaper, and I would have just done maps, and I would have just sold maps, and I would have done, Alvas, as well as maybe looked into a few other things there, because I was making a ton more currency just mapping and selling my map sustains, and then also doing Alvas in my league mechanics in the map than anything else overall. Now, I would attribute a little bit of my currency that I made to the expedition mechanic. I think probably I've made, I would say at least 5 or 6 exalts off the expedition mechanic minimum, through the form of logbooks, of which I've sold some, of which I've run some, and then I've also made a ton of money off of Tujen. So Tujen is a reasonably powerful powerful guy. He can give you a ton of good items. If you get the coins, they're a lot more common now. So we got a Hydra Fragment, which we can get here, which we can haggle for. That's already 10C, not too bad there. So we got that there. 10 Aberrant Fossils, that's another 10C. So we're already looking pretty good here. So doing the lead mechanic when it's 2-gen in your maps is, in my opinion, reasonably rewarding, especially now that they've actually buffed up the occurrence rate of the reroll tokens. So you can see here we've already got about 30C-ish worth of goods off of 2-gen alone. Let's see if we can pump that up a bit higher. We'll get these fusing orbs. I think everything else is pretty bad here. Yeah, so it's pretty whatever. So we reroll it again. We got some more aberrant fossils we'll pick up there. And you can see here that we've already probably made about, 35C or something like that. We can pick up these Marquette splinters. Those are pretty expensive actually, but we'll still pick them up. I'm going to haggle them down quite a bit there. Got those. We get these dense fossils as well. Those are worth a C each. But yeah, he's in general just pretty strong overall. He does give you a lot of currency, especially if you can now get the rerolls, which are fairly accessible these days and do drop a lot more after the patch. So yeah, overall, the grind for Headhunter was definitely slower than we're used to. We're in a bit of an abnormal bossing kind of economy. A lot of the margins are nowhere near as high as they have been in past leagues. But overall, if you just do maps and you're a mapper, pretty much any character can farm a considerable amount of currency just by getting to Awaken level 8 and then selling maps to other players, doing the 2-gen lead mechanic, and then also selling any logbooks you get is pretty good currency as well. In addition to that, you can also do lead mechanics such as Alva, and they yield an incredible amount of currency as well. One final thing here I'll just talk about is that if you do get a sacrificial chamber in your maps, it's a T3 sacrificial chamber. I think it's called the Apex of Ascension. I'd definitely recommend coming over to PoE Profit and checking out what's most profitable to sacrifice. I'd buy the prerequisite item and the vial and then sacrifice it and sell the item on. It's a really, really good way to make currency. And I think I've done 2 sacrificial chambers right now. I personally was doing Transcendent Spirit. Make sure you check out the prices and the supply and demand of the item before you do it, but that's also a pretty good strategy as well. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and it's a bit of a breakdown of how I got my Headhunter this league. I know a lot of people would ask, and that's how I did it. Essentially a combination of a lot of different things, all coming together to, kind of pull it in together and make it myself. So I did actually play pretty much completely solo this league. The only time I was in a group was when I was leveling through the story, and then I did pretty much everything by myself. So this is a pretty good representation of what it would look like solo. Obviously I have a lot of playtime, but if you chip away at it, you probably will be pretty good as well. So that's it, guys. Hope you guys have enjoyed. I'll see you guys in the next one. Until then, cheers.